Okay. Hello. So, I was having one of those typical 3 a.m. Well, it's not 3 a.m. It's technically 1:27 a.m. Talks to myself. Just usually spur of the moment, and I was talking for 30 minutes, maybe, or probably like 15 minutes, 15 to 30 minutes, and I was like, what I'm talking about would be interesting to record and share to others. I saw a TikTok, and that's usually how it starts. I saw a TikTok that was talking about once you take someone off of the pedestal, they aren't really, they're just a person. And I guess depending on the person that you're taking off a pedestal, they can still be a good person you want in your life, or they could be someone that really wasn't that great. And that made me start thinking about my past relationships and how the people in my past really weren't as high up there as I was making them out to be. And then that continued me down the spiral of my codependency and how I made people into things that they weren't, to fulfill a void of love that I wasn't getting from myself, but then also in other relationships, in those relationships specifically. Which is kind of sad. But at the same time, that was also not a good thing. And it got me to this point where I was thinking about how codependency is advertised and portrayed in many ways, but in the ways that I've seen it, mainly it's, or at least people don't really talk about the darker sides of it, I guess, and just how desperate people can be in codependent relationships, especially towards the end when it's the breaking point, which not a lot of people get to, the breaking point of change where you decide that this is enough. But the desperation that follows and the means and the directions that desperation takes you to fulfill this never-ending or never-fulfilled void within you. Because codependency is different for every person, but for me, it was just like, codependency is the act of trying to get the love that you wanted for yourself, the love that you wanted through your childhood, or at least for me, it was trying to fulfill that void of me not loving myself enough, which is nobody's responsibility but my own, and I'm doing that now, but in the past, obviously, not at all. But then also wanting just love from another person that anybody who loves himself would receive, so I was wanting them to essentially fill two cups, fill my self-love cup and just my need love from others cup. And I guess I felt entitled to it. And that's what comes with codependency, is like you give and give and give and give and give with the expectation that you're going to get it in return. And sometimes that's unwarranted. Like sometimes people don't want that love, but then you can also be in a relationship where you're with someone who can't give that or won't give that. And then, it's usually at least every codependent person has had a relationship with one narcissistic tendency person or egotistical person. I don't really like to throw around the word of narcissist, because it's a really, it goes deeper than that. Like, it's a really difficult condition or illness, or I don't know what it is, but like issue for people. So I'd rather say egotistical, and in those relationships, there's love bombing, and it's crazy because they really feed into your unrealistic fantasies of love that in the beginning with all the love bombing and all of that. So in those sorts of relationship dynamics, they make you believe that they can fulfill it, and then the desperation comes in later on when you realize that they can't, and that's where narcissists or egotistical people feed off of that. They're like, ooh, I can manipulate that, I can use that, but just in a normal relationship, so to speak. I just, from how I've interpreted it, codependency is really seen as this very submissive sort of deal thing. Like, a lot of people portray it in, I guess, in a misogyny sense of like, oh, feminine people, it's the feminine thing, the giver, the carer. Like, people view it as weak or meek or just desperate, you know, like, not everyone, but that's how I take it, I guess. And what I'm here talking about tonight, is that codependency is so much more than that. Codependent people, this could be very dominant and controlling in just so many different ways. Depends on the person, but they will do anything that they can to make sure that the love that they crave is around and there, and it's just interesting that it's portrayed so differently or not talked about enough, in the sense of like, people with codependency are not just like, you know, we'll just use this cringy like, ooh, I'm so weak, I just want love sort of deal. Like, it's no, like, I will do anything I need for love, I will say what I need to say, do what I need to do, give what I, you know, like, there's no boundaries or anything. Codependency is described as just, I looked it up, and it's just really confusing to me, and I feel like it's different for every person what codependency is, but it's generally just an unhealthy dynamic of you giving too much to compensate, giving too much with the expectation that you'll get that back, you know, giving the love to other people that you want yourself. And no matter the situation, the only solution is loving yourself enough first. And that leads into my next topic of how difficult it is to break the cycle. And maybe I'm just not well versed enough on codependency on social media and media in general, but I haven't seen anybody really talk about how difficult and physically painful it is to break the cycle, and just how, like, you can't break it permanently. My next thing was wanting to talk about how codependency is an addiction. It's literally an addiction. Like, of course, I'm not going to sit here and say I experienced the same things as someone who was getting off of cocaine or heroin or whatever, but I can say it's damn close. As close as you can get without being addicted to something of that substance. Love is an addiction. Love is an addiction, especially when you don't have much of it and you didn't grow up with the love that you deserved. It's an addiction, chasing after people and being in continuous relationships, trying to fill this void within yourself, and it's never satisfied because you're trying to skip around the subject, like trying, you know, like, and I guess people who are codependent don't think that they are worthy enough to love themselves. Other people are the only people worthy enough because we put them up on pedestals. But it's an addiction, and every situation is different. But for most situations that I've heard about, you have to quit cold turkey, and quitting cold turkey is so extremely painful. You can't really wean off of it, at least in my experience. We're at the point where I couldn't just wean off of it. Of course, everybody's situation is different, and you can't just ditch someone sometimes, especially if you're in a situation where you have kids, or you just can't break up with someone or get away from them as easily as just breaking up and going cold turkey, obviously. But for me, that's how it was. Earlier I was thinking about the imagery. It's literally you being torn apart in half. Every nerve, every muscle, every tendon, excuse me, skin cells, everything being ripped in half. Just so, like, the little beauty inside you, like, what am I trying to think? Just the person inside all of that codependency and all that difficulty, because it's not just codependency that you have to rip through when you're getting rid of, or not getting rid of codependency, but working through codependency is childhood trauma. It's a lot of shit. And it's ripping all of that away, and like a cocoon, ripping all of that away. That's how it felt for me. That's how I characterize it or visualize it, is ripping away everything that you were to become who you are. But it doesn't go away that easily. I feel like it'll always be a part of you. Like, we'll think, like, the ripping apart imagery, like, some of that, like, seeped into the inner core, we'll just say. While your inner core is different from all of the outer layers that you've accumulated throughout life, there is still a part of those outer layers that have gotten to your core. So it's difficult for like in a codependency situation. I don't think you can ever really cure it. It's always going to be there because it's a deeply rooted childhood thing, I guess, for me anyways. And using the addiction imagery or talk or whatever the word is, there are urges, and I hope that I'm not the only one. I am fully happy where I am. I am in a healthy relationship, or the startings of one anyways, and I love it, and I like them, and I want to be healthy, and I am way too big to be that. I've grown far too big, far too wide, my energy, all that. It's too much. I can't go back to that. I don't want to. But there are urges, man. Another thing with codependency is obsession. And that was my thing. Obsession, obsessing, spiraling, thinking for hours about the person and checking their social media, checking everything and stalking, especially with the person that I was with at the time who loved to be avoidant. Oof. Love one person being codependent and then another person being avoidant in a relationship, like attachment styles. Whew. That was a difficult one for me, not gonna lie. But those urges are still there sometimes, and it surprises me. It's been like a year or two since that relationship, and I'm just like, I should check. I should go look. I'm just like, what? Like, I'm sitting just vibing. I'm like, I was listening to a song, and I was just like, I should go check on them. I was like, what? Like, and I remember being like, should we? Like, it was so tempting, even though I didn't want to. I have no desire to. But it's just crazy that the urges are still there after so much work that I've done. And this is just me validating myself, but then anybody else who's going through that. Like, those urges do not make you a bad person. It's something that's been hardwired into you since since you were young. It's not that easy to just, cut it off. It's not that easy. And same with, like, people who are addicted to nicotine. They can quit for years and then just one day just do it again, like, it just happens, and that's okay. Well, I mean, it's not okay that you get back on the addiction, but like, you stopped it, you can always stop it again, so if you flub up a little bit, it's okay. Pull back, collect yourself. Also, I didn't flub up the other night when I had that urge, which I'm proud of. See, making progress. A couple months ago, I may have flipped up and looked, but I didn't now. So if you're in a situation where you're thinking, I'm never going to be over this, I'm never going to get over this, I'm always going to do this, I will always be doing this forever, you won't. But the urge will be there. I feel like the urge to do anything you're addicted to will always be there. It's you who gets stronger than that urge, And then, how do we go about life with it? I wrote down in my notes to keep myself on point. I referenced The Owl House. It's a wonderful show on Disney. You should really watch it. If you're sitting there thinking, I'm an adult, I can't watch cartoons, I reference the Roundtable on YouTube's video about cartoons and how they can be for adults too. You look it up, you'll find it. But spoilers for The Owl House. But Ida basically bonds with this curse that she has called the Owl Beast. It's been cursing her life since she was really young. Youngish anyways, really young in her age anyways. And she bonds with it. She spent her whole life fending it off, taking potions to keep it away, keep it at bay, stop messing with her life, like trying to keep it from consuming her. And then one day she just decides to sit down and bond with it. And in the show, it's lore-wise, it's specific to the lore, but the I don't know what the word is. The sub-meaning of it is, like, people with addictions or mental health issues or whatever. Like, she bonds with it. And the beast gets smaller. And then they learn... And then she gets this really cool new power with the bonding with the beast, essentially. But essentially, I like to use it as, like, you can find a way to live with it. Live alongside with it and have it not control you or consume you. And you don't have to get to a point where you're always running away from it. There's a way to get on some common ground with it, with anything. Mental health issues. Oh my god, I'm thinking of the cat in the house thing with Michael Myers, maybe, whatever. Anything. Anytime I say anything, I always think of that. But yeah, anything. You can co-live with it, co-coincide, peacefully live alongside it, even if you're on separate sides of the pool, the ocean, whatever, the land. You both can know you exist and not be at war with each other, you know. So, I'm still learning how to do that. I'm not gonna sit here and claim that I am this all-knowing being who's healed everything. Like, nah. I literally was having urges the other day to go back to my obsessive codependent behaviors. But yeah, that was my little chat for tonight, about codependency and how it is not how the media portrays it. And of course, there may be people listening right now. Well, I've seen codependency talk about exactly, or people talking about codependency exactly how you're saying or whatever. Like, I'm not claiming to be making a new point. Just from my personal experience, codependency is a lot more, I'm visualizing a knife, just a lot more sharper, there's a sharper edge to it than what media portrays from my experience and what I have seen. And just here's some support for you to just know, like, hey, it's okay. I'm feeling like there may be some people here who are frustrated, like me. Like, you've done so much work. Why am I still feeling this way? Or why is there a tendency to still feel this way? And I just... I'm not fully educated on this, but I've been telling myself this a lot lately about neural pathways in your brain. I need to research more about it, but from my understanding, basically, when you think a certain way for so long, your brain kind of automatically does that for you. And if you guys know more or want to correct me on that or anything, do it in the comments. But, like, so basically, when you think a certain way for so long, your brain just kind of does it automatically to save time. And this is codependency is known to be a childhood thing. Comes from childhood, not all the time, but most usually. So, yeah. So just don't be discouraged with yourself. It takes a long time to get rid of those certain thoughts and the way that, like, you've been thinking and stuff like that, especially if it's been years. But even if not, it's okay. If you thought if you've been thinking this way for a month, it could, it can be just as difficult, you know. But yeah, I think I'm going to close off for tonight. I've been thinking about doing something like this for a while, and I just hope I helped you in some way. Thank you for listening if you did. If not, that's obviously you're not here. But feel free to leave suggestions on topics you want me to talk about. I am a tarot creator on TikTok mainly, so follow me on TikTok and Instagram, same name as on here. I also have a Patreon, but that is more tarot related. I'm kind of just throwing this out there. If you're interested in more podcasty things, you'll find me here. I've never done this before. How'd I do? Let me know.